Hey guys, Theo here from Believe HiFi, and today we've got an amazing speaker review. We're going to be looking at the Spendor D7.2 loudspeakers. You've obviously seen them sitting beside me for a while. I've spent a lot of time with them, as well as a few other speakers that I'm going to be going through in the future, but these at the moment have been my main reference. So I'm going to get straight into the review, go over a few aspects of the speaker and let you know what I really think about them and if they could be for you or if they're maybe not for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, the Spendor D7.2. So I don't know if you've seen it, but I do have a Spendor video where I cover the range, I cover the brand, I cover the A line, the classic line, and the D line, and the differences in between them. And just a quick refresher on that, the D line is really Spendor's take at a modern speaker that focuses on that really high precision sound. They are a speaker that will provide you with an amazing insight to everything. Any change of electronics that you pair with it, cables, placement, anything. They're a speaker for an enthusiast that loves different amplifiers, DACs, cables, streamers, turntables, anything. Anything you change in the chain is going to be really noticed. And that was part of the design brief. Because when you look at a lot of the other modern speaking companies, if you look at the Focals of the world and these guys, they do have that more slightly, what I would say, slightly forward sound rather than the classic Spendors, which definitely sit a little bit more laid back. These are definitely not as forward. They just slightly, ever so slightly a bit forward. And that tends to be the trend with almost all the modern hi-fi speakers that come out now. So again, any change you make with the system, placement, anything. So they're very, very rewarding speakers. To give you a great example of this, I actually heard them with Brocasti monoblock amplifiers that were, I believe each amplifier was 10 times the price of the pair of speakers. So you had two of them. So you had, one amplifier powering this speaker, and that single amplifier was 20 times the price of the one speaker. And you think that's ridiculously overkill, but these speakers scale that much because then we went into a very capable amp that was still, 10,000 euros. And we went into that and the difference was enormous. And you're talking about a highly capable amplifier. And obviously everything feeding into it. We had uber high-end Brocasti, I think M21 digital to analog converter. We also had a ridiculously good turntable setup, but it really helped me push these speakers and see if that design brief they had was met. So to round it off, the design brief was a really transparent speaker that you can listen to and hear every tiny little change, very detail oriented and focused, but, and this is the biggest but, you don't lose that natural sound when it comes to the timbre and the tonalities, which some of these British speakers are known for. Okay, so the sound of the Spendor D7.2, what are you getting? Well, to summarize, I would say you're getting something that is hyper detailed and accurate for this price point, for any price point. There was an interesting review because even though I'm a reviewer, I still like to read other reviews and what other people say because I'm interested in, and I love the hobby. And there was an interesting line in concluding, I think it was Stereophile's review, and that was the older version before they were upgraded from the D7 to D7.2. And he made a remark and it said, it seriously makes me question if I ever need to spend any extra money on a speaker. And it's kind of how almost I feel. The detail, the transparency that you're getting and the tonality and the whole package you're getting at this price point, it's actually amazing. If you haven't heard this speaker, you'll be shocked. I honestly think not only I think, I know, I've heard this speaker against speakers that are a hell of a lot more expensive. And maybe those more expensive speakers that are a bit larger, they might have a bit more dynamics and they can really throw sound out into the room and rock out. Not saying these can't, I'm just talking about something that's maybe 4 or 5 times the price. But when it comes to the imaging, the detail, the resolution, the scalability with different gear that's coming through, this beats a hell of a lot of the speakers that are 4 or 5 times the price. And if you don't believe me, just give it an audition. Really, really impressed. And as I said before, you're getting the detail and the resolution without getting a loss on what I sort of say is that neutral, natural tonality and timbre, which you can lose sometimes with these really highly resolving speakers or even headphones. Some ultra highly resolving and detailed, where you pick up those microplankton, microscopic details, whatever you want to call them. You lose a little bit of that natural sound when it comes to real instruments and the human voice. The other thing I want to say about this speaker is it can really play. It's very dynamic. It's way more dynamic than a lot of the traditional British speakers. I mean, I think they made it to be that way. Really, really, really quick bass response. And I almost put it like everything the speaker does, I don't know why, but I just have the image of like a surgeon with like cutting with like laser. Like it's like laser surgical precision in terms of what this speaker does. So accurate, and the bass is just, it's quick and it's accurate and it's tight and it's blended very well. You don't hear bass, mid-range, treble. You just all blends in very well, and I think it's just due to the fact Spendor really know what they're doing. They pretty much make absolutely everything in-house right there. Manufacture, assemble everything. The other thing when it comes to sound is the mid-range. Obviously the bass I just mentioned, it's absolutely lightning quick, it's tight, it's punchy. The mid-range is where this speaker, for me, I have to award it very highly. At this price point, to have the resolution and the detail I was saying before, and not lose that natural sound that you get from some of these British speakers, you know, like the Spendor Classics and the Harbiths and the Rogers of the world, that give you that really beautiful tonality and sound when you're listening to a guitar, or even when you listen to a violin or piano or something like that. Some of the ultra detailed, hyper detailed speakers, yeah, they have surgical precision, but they can sound a bit cold and a bit lifeless and a bit too hi-fi and not real. And where I commend this speaker again very, very highly is it doesn't lose that. It doesn't lose that at all. You keep that really beautiful sound through the mid-range and the tonality and the vocals. Not the best vocals I've ever heard. I prefer the classic for the vocals, but they're still very, very, very good. For a highly resolving speaker that's targeting this other type of audience, very good. Moving into the treble, it's very good. I've heard better. Probably not at this price point. Let me rephrase that. At this price point, absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. The way it's blended up through into the range, non-fatiguing, you can really play them loud. But it's, if I have to nitpick here, sometimes, and it's just probably the nature of a lot of modern hi-fi products, they're just a little bit forward. When you do an extended listening session, more than an hour, and you're playing loud and you're really immersing yourself into that music session, there were times that I was getting a little bit of fatigue, and that's usually due to micro distortion from the tweeter. Like, it's almost like non-audible, but when I've listened to, I don't want to name names, but certain products that are ultra mega expensive and I crank them up in the same environment, there's this little bit of extra sense of ease in the treble where it's just inviting you to turn it up more and more and more, and there's never that feeling ever to get the remote and just take it down 2 notches. So apart from being, as I said, treble detail wise phenomenal, and the tonality and everything, cymbals, it's very good treble, but it's just a hair hot or a hair spicy, if you know what I mean, compared to what I would consider absolutely perfectly neutral. Like most modern hi-fi components, tad forward, a tad spicy or hot, just a little bit hot. And you might really like that. My ears are very treble sensitive. I don't know, it's because if they're like super pointy and it catches the sound, I always make jokes about that about myself. I don't know, but I always nitpick, and it's the one thing, if I have to nitpick, tiny bit hot for me on a perfect speaker. And to ask for the price of these, which are about 5,000 euros, to be perfect, I'm asking for a lot. When I make that comment, there's no way I'm gonna find, not no way, but I would really, really challenge you to find something at this price that has this performance when it comes to even what I said, that hotness. All right, you get something smoother, but there's no way it's gonna have detail like these. Not a chance. Lastly on the sound, imaging. Imaging is very good. Very, 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 very good. That surgical precision thing that I kept saying before, again, where I came up with that was with the imaging. It was like I could get out a laser pointer and be like, exactly there. Not somewhere there, exactly there. It's exactly where they are. I could tell you exactly where the cymbal's being hit, and it felt like I could literally get a laser pointer out and within, centimeter be like, it's there, it's right in that spot. So imaging, if you like imaging, especially for floor standers, I don't know if you guys know this, but generally I find that bookshelf or stand mount speakers generally image a bit better. It's easier to get them to image better, but these image ridiculously well, and they disappear into the room ridiculously well too. The one thing I will say is this: with the imaging, like everything to do with these speakers, as I mentioned at the start, everything matters. I dialed these speakers in within millimeters, and I'm not just talking about back and forward and side to side and the listening position. I'm talking about even the toe in. If I change these toe in by this much, just a slight angle, just a slight bit, I'll notice that it's not exactly precise to how it could be. A lot of other speakers, they image quite well, and you can mess around with them a bit and they'll still image quite well. These will too, but they won't get quite as locked in as these can at the price point. These get locked in amazingly well, but they're a speaker that you need to be someone that loves putting in all the effort. Precision in placement, getting great gear to pair with it, changing cable, everything matters with this speaker. And that's why I really like it, because I go to extremes. I absolutely tinkered with placements for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. And then once I thought I found it perfect, I would mark it so precisely, and then I'd go, let me try something else. And over months, you get that magic spot. And even in the first place, it was magic. But these are those kind of speakers. I love tinkering with the DACs and I'm using, the servers I'm using, the cables I'm using. These give you all the reward for all the money you put in. Room treatment, everything you do, these will give you the reward. And that's an awesome thing, all without losing a very nice, enjoyable sound. So you're getting almost the best of all worlds to some degree. And for this price, you really have to push to complain. And if you haven't listened to them, I urge you to, especially if you love the British sound, but you miss the fact that it doesn't quite give you the precision of some of the other more modern takes. This sort of combines those two worlds into one. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there and leave you with the summary of everything. Who is this for? Someone that is an enthusiast, an absolute enthusiast, because everything matters. As I keep saying, I can't say it enough. Everything matters. The positioning down to the smallest margin, everything you're putting into the chain, you're gonna hear a massive difference every time. Who are they not for? Probably someone that prefers a slightly more laid back sound. These have that modern hi-fi sound. Just not as much as some other brands or some other speakers, but they do tilt that way. So it's going to be a little bit forward, a little bit more in your face, you know, a little bit more life when it comes to those dynamics. So someone that wants a little bit more laid back presentation, let's say you love Harbath, you're going to prefer the Harbath to these. Yeah, they're going to give you more detail. Yeah, they're going to be able to slap harder. Yeah, they're going to be quicker, but they're not going to have the magic in the mid-range that something like a Harbath has. It has magic, but not that amount. And also you're comparing something very laid back and smooth to something that's definitely got a lot more spiciness to it in terms of the sound. And that's the best way I could put it. And again, at the price, I have to say this, at the price, I just feel like I can't think of anything, and I've heard countless amounts of speakers and brands and everything. I just can't think of something at this price that can beat it. All right, so that's gonna do me for today's episode. Let's call it a video review, very rave review, but I have to give it a rave review. For the price, as I keep saying, I just have to. It's too hard to nitpick at this price point. Yes, they're an expensive speaker, but wow, do they make some more expensive speakers sort of crumble. That's the only way I can put it. But please guys, like, subscribe. I can't wait to see you on the next one. Leave a comment, send me an email. I'm always happy to help and get back to you.